Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube. Today, I'm looking at Dynasty stashes turning toward 2025. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's go. My first player, Marquise Brown. So, I do sometimes like to include higher up players in these stash videos, ones that are, obviously rostered in all leagues. And Darnell Mooney was one of the players that launched the series last year, and I think that ended up being one of my best calls. So, I want to look at Marquise Brown, kind of a player in the same vein. Look, he hasn't done anything this year, right? Because he's been out with that shoulder injury. But we know that he'd been a high target player for years previously. So why am I including him on this list? This is a great opportunity for him to showcase his skills. We know that everyone will be watching the Chiefs down the stretch and in the playoffs. So if Brown balls out, dynasty managers and NFL teams will take notice. And they kind of need him. I mean, they have DeAndre Hopkins, who's playing like 50% of snaps. They have Xavier Worthy, but I mean, Hollywood Brown at a minimum is their third best receiver immediately. Forget maybe better than that, but minimum. So they need him, especially given the state of their running game. Now, Brown signed a 1-year, $7 million deal this offseason. He'll be just 28 in June 2025, so perfectly young enough for a team to sign him to a 2 to 3 year deal if he does well. And Brown was relevant for 4 straight years. He had 4 straight seasons of 100 targets over the last 4 years. In 2021 and 2022, he was really good. 2021, he balled out in his final year in Baltimore. 2022, he was successful for the Cardinals when healthy. He was a great player. So this is a successful wide receiver who might not have always been a superstar, but was always good whenever he was on the field. So that's why I wanted to include him in this video. I don't think I've talked about him in months. So I thought he was worth inclusion. Now, next player, we're getting a little lower down here. Mac Jones. So obviously this is super flex only. He's gotten an opportunity to play this year due to Trevor Lawrence's injuries. And honestly, I think Mac Jones has looked okay. Completion percentage, 65.7%. That's good. 4 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. That's not so good. 6.1 yards per attempt. Not great. 17 carries for 53 yards. Considering he's barely played, he's actually showed a little bit more mobility than I remember from Mac Jones. So I kind of like that. But Jones has looked a lot better since the week 12 bye. He's only taken 3 sacks since then, averaged almost 250 yards a game. And last week against the Jets, yes, I know the Jaguars lost, but Jones looked really good in that game. He really did. He looked like a bridge starter level, high-end backup quarterback, I would say. So why do I have Jones as a 2025 Dynasty stash? Well, he's a free agent and the talent is still there. The quarterback market is extremely thin. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. Jones is not going to sign to be a starter. I mean, the best case scenario is he signs in like a Jacoby Brissett spot from last year, where he's clearly the backup, but might start a few games at some point. But, Jones was pretty good in New England. He completed 66.1% of his passes and averaged 6.8 yards per attempt with almost no help. Those are better than a backup. That's better than most backups. So considering that he was torched by Bill Belichick, the general manager, throughout his whole career in New England, I don't know. I mean, Jones is someone in Superflex League. He should be rostered in all leagues. I'm sure he already is. But maybe he'll gain some value throughout the offseason. I think it's something to consider. Now, my next player, Marvin Mims. I usually don't cover players from the Thursday night game, but we're starting to move towards 2025. So I think Mims deserves a mention, and I've kind of ignored him throughout the year. And, he hadn't been playing much, so I kind of understand why I hadn't been paying too much attention to him. But he's starting to come on a little bit. So 26 catches, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1.7 catches, and 23.3 yards a game. Basically, per game, it's the same stat line as 2023. So up until very recently, it felt like no matter what Mims did, he was not able to please Sean Payton. Everyone else was always ahead of Mims in the pecking order. But lately, I felt like things have changed. So there's been an uptick in performance. Mims has played better lately. Over the last 4 games, he has at least 4 targets and at least 3 catches in each of them, averaging 57.8 yards a game. So we saw this week he had that big play. He has big plays from time to time, seeing a bit more playing time. This week, he finally passed Troy Franklin in snaps. And we know Mims was a second-round pick from this very Sean Payton regime. It's not like he's from a previous regime. Sean Payton was responsible for adding Marvin Mims to this team. Now, it seemed like he hated Marvin Mims, but he must have had a role for him at some point, right? And Mims was one of my favorite prospects coming into the draft from that like second or third tier. In his final college season in Oklahoma, he had 54 catches, 1,083 yards, and 6 touchdowns. And he was solid in the 2 years before that. He was not just a one-year wonder, and he was an early declare. Came in at 21 years old and an early breakout because of his decent performances in his first 2 college seasons. So, as I said, very young, still just 22 years old, turns 23 in March 2025. So this is a player who was a good college prospect. It didn't come together early on. It still really hasn't come together. But if you were looking for someone who had an outside chance at being the very rare now third-year breakout, most breakouts happen in year 2. But if you're looking for someone who had a chance to do that, Marvin Mims would be someone on the low end of my radar that, maybe should be rostered in most dynasty leagues, especially deeper leagues, if somehow he's out there on waivers. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. Right now, I'm offering a 50% discount at all tiers using the code TylerYT. You can sign up right there in the top right corner, patreon.com/fantasyadvice. I have held on to that link for years. I'm never giving it up. So that's where you can sign up for Patreon. You get my rankings, access to Discord, ability to ask in advance questions for YouTube videos, and maybe some Patreon-only videos, which we will do during the offseason on topics that will not succeed in the YouTube algorithm. And I'll make an announcement about that on the YouTube channel when those videos are existing. Tiers begin at just $6 a month, but $3 with the discount. I'm rewarding people who tune into the YouTube videos. I'm not promoting this code on Twitter. So those who are tuning into the YouTube videos can get a 50% discount. And I'm planning to do that indefinitely. So make sure to sign up. And if you want to know more about the Patreon, check out my Why You Should Join the Patreon videos on the channel. I'm going to do another one of those probably the first week of January, taking a look at an off-season lens of what I'm doing. But they're all on the homepage, so you can check those out to see what I'm offering. With that said, let's get into my next player. So next up, Kenneth Gainwell. Of course, the Eagles' run game has been really strong this year behind Saquon Barkley, but I've been impressed a little bit by Kenneth Gainwell, who's gone under the radar, especially since he's completely shut out Will Shipley, who I liked as a prospect, I will say, out of the backup job. Kenneth Gainwell has maintained that job, which was not what I expected coming into the season, to be honest. Gainwell, 14 games, 57 carries, 265 yards, a touchdown, 12 catches, 96 yards. Been pretty efficient. Mostly been used to spell Barkley, but he did see more playing time last week as Barkley struggled with a little bit of injury, and we've seen a little bit more of Gainwell when that's happened. In contrast, Shipley has 20 carries and no catches, almost all in garbage time, so he's been completely irrelevant. Now, why do I have Kenneth Gainwell as a 2025 Dynasty stash? He's an impending free agent, and he's always looked good on his touches. So, yes, Gainwell is a free agent. He may draw interest as an RB2 on the market. Now, the Eagles already had Saquon Barkley when they drafted Will Shipley. Does it seem like they're going to spend money on a free agent contract for Kenneth Gainwell? Probably not. I think they're just going to keep Will Shipley and then maybe, draft or sign an even lower level free agent as competition for RB2, RB3. So I do think Gainwell is going to be on a different team next year. And maybe he'll be RB2 behind someone a little less good than Saquon Barkley, which would be almost everyone, or in more of a pass catching role than he has now. Gainwell's been good every year of his career, averaged 4.3 yards per carry or better. And when we see Gainwell, no, he's not Saquon Barkley. He's not that level of player. But I do see a good player. I see someone who can help an NFL team. And I do see someone where if they got the opportunity, Gainwell's never going to handle 20-25 touches a game. But if he got the opportunity to handle the starting job, could be fantasy relevant. But starters just really haven't gotten injured very much in Gainwell's career, so we've never seen it. But I do think this is the kind of player you stash. We know running back value comes out of nowhere. And Gainwell has been kind of on my stash list for a long time. Now, last player. We started with a Kansas City pass catcher. We're going to end with another one, Noah Gray. And Gray has been consistently involved all year, and I think might be one of the candidates to gain the most value in the 2025 offseason. In 2024, Gray, 14 games, 37 catches, 420 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2.6 catches, and 30 yards a game. Again, he's improved every year of his career. Every year, he gets slightly more involved. This year, again, it's a little bit better. Now, why do I have Gray as a stash? He does have a long-term extension, and Travis Kelce potentially could be retiring. Gray signed a 3-year, $18 million extension with $10 million guaranteed that kicks in starting in 2025. Now, is that huge money? No. Would they have signed him to that if they were sure that Kelce were coming back for 2025? Probably not. With Gray's continued emergence, he would be in line to be the starting tight end if Kelce retires. I don't think they would draft. I mean, maybe they could prove me wrong, but they have a lot of needs. Would they draft a tight end in the first round? I'm not thinking that they would do that. So I do think they would turn to Gray as the starter. Now, I got to be honest. Kelce turned 35 in October. He slowed down this year. Yes, he's still averaging 6 catches a game. So he's still good for fantasy. But we're only talking about 50.6 yards a game on those catches. So career low in yards per game. The explosiveness is gone. Big plays are gone. And honestly, if Rashee Rice had not gone down, how much Kelce would we have seen? We didn't see any in the games Rashee Rice played. Would we have even seen Kelce in that middle of the field role? I don't know. And look, Kelce's under contract for 2025, but little of it is guaranteed. His contract makes sense if he's going to retire after this year, if I'm being honest with the cap. Kelce's a Chiefs legend. The Chiefs can save $17.5 million by cutting him before his 2025 roster bonus becomes due. Now, I'm not saying the Chiefs are going to cut Travis Kelce. I'm saying if Kelce wants to come back, I bet the Chiefs work something out. But something tells me that I'm kind of leaning toward a retirement here. I'm leaning toward a retirement. Kelce's still been good this year. And I do worry if he comes back for one more year, we're going to see not good Travis Kelce. And I'm not sure he wants to go out that way. He has so many other things going on. And like I said, the cap and contract really have no ties for next year. So easily could be looking at a retirement, which would open up a lot of value for Noah Gray. At which point I would definitely recommend selling Noah Gray. I'm not saying I think Noah Gray is Travis Kelce, but I'm saying it's a value opportunity for Noah Gray at that point. Now, got a couple of Patreon questions today, so we'll jump into those and then close out the video. So, what are a few of your favorite Dynasty League settings rules outside of Superflex and 10 Premium? Of course, I like Superflex and 10 Premium. I think one thing that's come up a lot today, and I will mention, is I'm starting to lean toward using max points for the rookie draft order. That is giving the best pick to the team with the worst max points for. Now, why would I do that? I used to say, well, it should be reverse order of record, right? That makes sense. That's what, the NFL is. But I feel as if that has too many problems. We see teams benching their best players, setting inadequate lineups. There's so many issues with doing it by record. Max points for is another great way, I think, to measure who really is the worst team, who needs that 101. And it just avoids so many messes that's, I think, one of my favorite new settings this year, using max points for to set the rookie draft order. Last question. I think this is very interesting. Seems like in the NFL landscape, lots of teams face the conundrum of whether to pay their good but not elite quarterback Dak, Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Purdy are some examples. And yes, this is the most vexing conundrum you face in the NFL. If you have a guy who's truly elite, Allen, Mahomes, Burrow, Lamar, you pay them. They're worth it. Even someone who's maybe not quite there, Herbert, Jalen Hurts, they're more than good enough. They should be paid. The problem is those middle guys, because teams are so afraid to go into QB purgatory. But there's two levels of the middle guys. There's the good but not elite, these listed ones. And then there's the kind of middle of the road. Do you pay them like the $45 million contract? It's hard. It's hard. You can't really create a winner with, you see with the Cowboys, what happened with Dak Prescott at $60 million. You really can't create a winning team with that. Eventually, there's going to be a team that says, no, we're not doing it. But that really hasn't happened since Kirk Cousins left Washington. So I've stopped predicting it to happen. I just assume that when a team has a quarterback who is very good, that they're going to pay them, because I haven't been wrong about that in a very long time. And with the quarterbacks listed, I absolutely expect the 49ers to pay Brock Purdy on a relatively top end market deal. I just do. That's what's going to happen, because the track record of everything since 2018 says it's going to happen. So until I see it not happen, I'm going to say that it's going to happen. It happened with Tua. It happened with Lawrence. It happened with Dak. I think it's going to happen with Purdy too. So that's kind of my take on that. But yeah, it will take a brave NFL team one day to do it. And I think that'll be really a good topic of conversation at that point. But I'm never predicting it because it has not happened. Now, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, available on the Patreon, right up there, patreon.com/fantasy advice. Dynasty starts at redraft and more. But during the offseason, we focus on Dynasty, of course. 50% discount at all tiers using code TylerYT, which is also in the show description below. Every sign up helps support my independent content. But once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all